All drama aside, there's a football game to be played this weekend as the Indianapolis Colts take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What's it going to take for the Colts to win their third game in a row? Let's talk about it. Welcome to the Horseshoe Huddle Podcast presented by Fan Nation on SI.com, part of the Fans First Sports Network. My name is Andrew Moore for the third night in a row here on the Horseshoe Huddle YouTube channel, and I'm joined here as always with my colleague, co-host, and partner here at Horseshoe Huddle, Drake Wally. Drake, it's been a very after a slow bye week, no news. They've certainly thrown us right back into the gauntlet with news. Not only did we have a show on Monday with all the questions, then the Shaquille Leonard news drops. Jim Irsay has taken over Twitter today, and oh yeah, the Colts play the Bucs this weekend. So how you doing, brother?
I'm doing really good, and like you said, just when you think you have just a little bit of room for a day or two without anything, here comes a freaking grenade, and then here comes another grenade from the owner himself. So, I will say though, this episode, believe it or not, everyone, is about the matchup with the Buccaneers. So, we're going to be talking about that. I think it's a kind of an overlooked matchup. I know you got a 5-5 team versus a 4-6 team, but I mean, there's some explosive offensive weapons on both sides and some pretty stout defensive players, especially on those fronts. I think it's going to be an exciting game.
I think so too, because the Colts are currently ninth in the AFC playoff picture. And say what you will about the Buccaneers, yeah, they may be 4-6, but that NFC South is not a very good division, and they still could very easily win that division. So they have a lot to play for as well. The night before Thanksgiving, wanted to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, especially the third host of this show, Stats Matt. What's up, gents? Got his turkey prepared for the smoker tomorrow. Now let's talk football. Stats Matt is on it as always. So, guys, as more of you trickle in here, we'll say what I always say every single episode. And now with our third show in a row, if you haven't done so already, I don't know what else to tell you. But please go ahead and go follow us on all of our socials, like Horseshoe Huddle on Facebook, follow at Colts on FN on X, and subscribe to the Horseshoe Huddle YouTube channel. Hit that bell so you know whenever Drake and I go live, because there may be weeks like this where we have episodes every single day with how crazy it is in Colts Nation. But you want to make sure you never miss an episode. You can always join us here live in the chat. And if you can't catch us live for whatever reason, no worries. Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you listen to podcasts, we're on there as well. So make sure you subscribe, give us a 5-star review so we can reach other Colts fans just like you. So Drake, let's dive right into it here. Buccaneers coming to Lucas Oil Stadium to take on the Indianapolis Colts here in week 12. Colts currently a 2.5-point favorite over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Like you said, the Bucs are coming off of a loss last weekend, and the Colts have currently won 2 in a row and are well rested after their bye. So very interesting matchup. And I think, again, like I said at the beginning, all drama aside, I think this is a good opportunity for the Colts to continue their winning streak after the bye. I think with all things considered, that line is a really good line, and I think it's indicative of who should be favored going into this matchup.
Absolutely. And, you're kind of looking at Baker Mayfield in Tampa, and I know that he's kind of been buried there in the NFC South, where you kind of said it might even be the worst division in football right now. So you're kind of looking at Tampa right now, and they, like you said, they have so much to play for. And on any given Sunday, Baker Mayfield actually can play like a number one pick. He's just not consistent. That's the thing. He's just a very wildly inconsistent gunslinger. But when he hits, I mean, he can play like a top 5 QB. So he's got some firepower. All right. He's got Rashad White. He's got Mike Evans. He's got Chris Godwin. On any given Sunday, those two are still the best tandem in the NFL if everything, hits correctly. So I think it's a big matchup for the Colts. I think the secondary is going to be pushed very, very far by those two. And I think that Baker Mayfield, they're one of the worst running teams in the NFL. He's going to be out there slinging the ball all around. So maybe some opportunities for some turnovers.
Definitely some explosive players on all sides here. Not only for the Colts on offense and defense, but the Buccaneers have plenty of explosive players on both sides of the ball as well. But let's start with the quarterback position for the Indianapolis Colts. Gardner Minshew. Obviously, Minshew not playing his best ball heading into the bye week for the Colts. Definitely looks skittish. Was not handling pressure well, but he had a week off to recharge, kind of reset things. So it's going to be interesting to see which Gardner Minshew we get. Are we getting the Minshew that can be that field general, stay calm in the pocket and get the ball out to his weapons? Or are we going to see the Gardner Minshew that we've seen in recent weeks, the one that senses pressure before it's there, isn't very accurate, seems to be prone to quite a few turnovers? What do you think, Drake? Which Gardner Minshew do you think we are going to see on Sunday?
It's really interesting because the matchup that he has in front of him is so weird because Tampa is I mean, they're not one of the top teams, but they're in they're in the upper half of the NFL as far as sacks. They're actually sitting right now at 29 and they're tied with Minnesota. But as far as like pass defense, they're the 31st ranked team in pass yards allowed per game, but they're like in the top 10 as far as points allowed per game. So it's a team that stops your ground attack,
Bend but
but
don't break, it
bend
seems
but
like.
don't break. But they just sit there and they get into the red zone and they say, "All right, now get a touchdown," and you don't, and or either they force a turnover or they force you to try a field goal. So the Colts have kicked a lot of field goals this year, and they've struggled at times to get into the red zone or to get into the end zone with Gardner Minshew. They were killing it with Anthony Richardson, but
Mhm.
again, it just shows his limitations. But look, man, if the Colts, it's all going to come down to Vita Vea. He's really an eater of worlds. Like, I mean, he's a real problem in the interior. Very athletic defensive tackle. If they can keep that pass rush down, though, because look, man, Tampa's got some sacks on the season. I think Minshew has a golden opportunity here to have a pretty damn good game, and then really open up Jonathan Taylor later on. So, I think this could be a new Minshew. But again, we've said this before against weaker opponents, and he hasn't gone out there and proven it. But this is the worst pass defense he is going to face all season, or at least the worst that he has faced up to this point.
Shout out to Noah Compton joining us. Our good friend Noah is here. He said, "We here. Let's go." Wyatt Law also in the chat. Good to see you, old friend, saying the bye came at the best possible time for Minshew to sit back, regroup, and reboot his game for the stretch run. A wise comment by Wyatt Law, as always. And I think that's what the hope is for Colts fans, you know. And I think that's also what these Colts coaches should be communicating to Gardner Minshew. A lot of self-scouting was done by the Colts coaching staff over the bye. You know, they're looking into all this, and it's just about Gardner Minshew settling down, trusting the blocking in front of them, because the Colts offensive line has been doing a pretty good job of keeping Gardner Minshew clean and giving him time to throw. Trust your guys in front of you, trust the weapons that you out there, and just deliver them the football like we all know and that he can do. So yeah, this is a maybe a get right game for Gardner Minshew, because the Buccaneers don't have the best pass defense out there. And then on top of that, some of their top cornerbacks are on the injury report. I think I saw Jamal Dean did not practice, or was a limited participant in practice today. And there's others out there. You know, I know Levante David was out of practice. Devin White was out of practice today. So the two top linebackers for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers not practicing, and likely won't be at full strength on Sunday. So I think this is a really good opportunity for Gardner Minshew to build up his confidence, and for the Colts to have a good game through the air. But I like what you said there, Drake. It's really a lot about what we're going to see as far as the pressure on Gardner Minshew, because I think if he can get into a rhythm and he doesn't have to worry about that pressure, then I think you're talking about a Gardner Minshew that can very easily lead this Colts offense to 20 plus points. If not, he starts feeling those ghosts or feeling the pressure before it's there. It's not going to be pretty. And the stats Matt says, from what he saw, that Jamal Dean was going to be out for a couple weeks. So yeah, it doesn't look like Dean is going to even play on Sunday, which is good news for the Colts and this passing game.
Yeah, and the thing is, they still do have guys like Shaquille Barrett, and I do see a guy that we were talking about that we thought the Colts were going to draft, and that's is it Yaya Diaby?
Yaya Diaby.
Yeah, right now he is second on the freaking team, tied with Shaq Barrett. So I mean, that's pretty impressive. But like you said, if they can, especially if Ryan Kelly plays, I know he was a limited participant, but man, if he plays and that's a fully equipped offensive line, it's really about stopping Vita Vea because he's kind of like that point that just hits your offensive line and then it just weakens you throughout the game and other pass rushers get through. If they can keep him contained, they could probably keep Minshew clean. And Minshew really likes to operate out of a clean pocket and he throws those short darts and everything else. So maybe he could open up some big plays down the field, like you said. Jamel Dean is actually not even playing, so boy, that could really open up a lot, especially without the linebackers. If they don't play, they look pretty banged up right now.
Shout out to Dylan Verano from Hawaii joining us this evening. Good to
Oh,
see
hell
you,
yeah.
Dylan. Thanks for joining the show. But Drake, yeah, that kind of moves us to our next point about Vita Vea, because not only is Vita Vea an absolute monster in the pass game, rushing the passer, but that's what the Colts are going to have to deal with going up with this running game, and especially specifically Jonathan Taylor, who has really came back to form. He has taken over as the bell cow in the running back room again, receiving the majority of the carries the last few weeks for the Indianapolis Colts. And it's going to be Jonathan Taylor versus Vita Vea. Obviously, the Colts have to do a really good job up front with the guys like you mentioned, Ryan Kelly, if he comes back, which he's working his way through the concussion protocol. Quentin Nelson, Will Fries, those guys in the middle are going to be tasked with really taking care of Vita Vea. So with Jonathan Taylor versus Vita Vea, who's your money on?
I really like Jonathan Taylor in this matchup. I know that they've got a stout run defense, but they are absolutely brutally bad against the pass. And typically, when you are great against one area and terrible against the other, and you have a play caller that is very, very witty and very good at adjusting and taking advantage of your weaknesses, like Shane Steichen, I just think he's going to figure out a way to take advantage of Todd Bowles' defense. I mean, he's gonna be able to find holes in that secondary. So I think that's going to open up opportunities for Jonathan Taylor. I think you might even see, because he averaged only about 3 yards a carry because New England knew everything that the Colts were going to do in the last game. But man, I'm going to make a bold prediction. I'd say 2 touchdowns, whether it's through the air or on the ground, and over 100 yards, like on the ground.
That'd be pretty impressive, going up against the 6th ranked rush
He'll need a
defense.
chunk run.
Yeah, the 6th best rush defense in the NFL. But then again, I mean, it's not just Vita Vea that has a part in that. I mean, the guys that I mentioned previously, Levante David and Devin White, 2 of the best linebackers in the NFL. You have to credit a lot of the success of the Buccaneers run defense to those 2 guys as well. And if they're not 100%, or either one of those guys cannot go, then I think it's going to be advantage to the Indianapolis Colts getting Jonathan Taylor going in there. Sprinkling in some Zach Moss in there as well, because again, you don't have to have it be all on Jonathan Taylor. Keep punching them with that 2-headed monster that you have at running back. You can start opening up things for Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew doesn't have to feel like he has to put this team on his back. He can rely on the running game, rely on his pass catchers, and again, just trying to keep Gardner Minshew calm through all this. And I think that while Vita Vea is just absurd, he is really a specimen along that defensive line. It's going to be interesting to see how Shane Steichen schemes up this running game. Maybe not necessarily running it directly at Vita Vea, or maybe focusing some double teams on that area. I think Shane Steichen, with a week to prepare for this, again, a lot of self-scouting, we're going to see some new wrinkles in this Colts offense, specifically in this running game. That's something that I've always been so impressed by since Shane Steichen arrived here in Indy, just how how detailed it is in the running game, and how it's never as it seems, and he finds different ways to get to create space and create holes for this running game. I think Sunday is going to be no different.
Yeah, and there's an offensive coordinator or play caller that I think has since kind of faded a bit, but Greg Roman and what he did with Lamar Jackson and just the variety of runs at one point in Baltimore was incredibly impressive. And I think Brett Coleman did a great video where he's like, they don't need to pass. They have such an intricate running scheme that they have explosive plays on the ground. And so it's a little different when you have Gardner Minshew as opposed to Lamar Jackson, right? But Shane Steichen has been able to integrate Zach Moss in. I know last game was different, but we kind of explained why that was the case, why he only got one carry. He's been able to integrate both Jonathan Taylor and Zach Moss into this scheme, into this running scheme. And the plays are just so varied that it's really hard to get a beat on what gap these guys are going through, where the offensive line's going to pull block on the outside or whether they're going to, go to the inside. I mean, he's got so many different ways to get Jonathan Taylor and Zach Moss opportunities that it's incredibly impressive. And I just, kind of like you said, I really think he's just going to have the advantage because they are so weak against the pass. I just think there's going to be enough plays from Minshew who can still get it done that it's going to open up ground opportunities for both Taylor and Moss. And I think you're going to see more than a carry in this game from Zach Moss. I think you're going to see him integrated a little more.
Now going back to kind of, we talked about that Minshew's going to have an opportunity against this pass defense. That also means that the pass catchers for the Indianapolis Colts are going to have an opportunity to really excel. So keeping that in mind, which pass catcher for the Indianapolis Colts do you think is going to have the biggest impact, or be really the one to step up against this Tampa Bay defense? It can be a wide receiver or a tight end, but who do you think is going to step up and really be that go-to guy for Minshew on Sunday?
I want to say Kylan Granson, but that's dependent on if Devin White and Levante David play, because they're just balanced linebackers. Those two can play. Those can do just about anything you need. But I would say Michael Pittman. I know that it sounds so cliche, but I really think he is going to decimate that secondary. I think even if early on they game plan for him, there's going to be at least a couple of the pass catchers that are going to make a play happen, and it's going to open up Michael Pittman, especially without Jamel Dean. Boy, that really handicaps that secondary more than ever. And we're talking about a 31st ranked defense against the pass with Jamel Dean most of the time. So now remove him. I just think it has Michael Pittman written all over it. I think him and Taylor have an opportunity to really tee off in this matchup.
I like that. And I do feel like Pittman's going to get his own. I do think that Michael Pittman will be someone that he'll still get his 7 to 8 catches, probably get 70, 80 yards on the day. For me, it's Josh Downs. I think this bye week was really something that Josh Downs needed to get healthy, really, because, I mean, he's been limited the past 2 games with that knee injury. He did not show up on the injury report for the Indianapolis Colts today. That means the knee was not an issue. He practiced in full. I think having a fully healthy Josh Downs is what Gardner Minshew needs. Not having the offense has really struggled with Gardner Minshew the past 2 games against the Panthers and against the New England Patriots, where Josh Downs wasn't at full capacity. So being able to attack the middle of the field with Josh Downs, be able to get some explosive plays with Josh Downs there, especially with a Todd Bowles run defense. This is something we haven't even mentioned yet, but think of how much Todd Bowles loves to send blitzes, and especially against a quarterback who's already been blitzed the most amount of times in the NFL in Gardner Minshew. So in order to combat that, what are you going to do? You're going to throw it to the quick win wide receiver that is Josh Downs, the guy that's able to win quickly at the line of scrimmage, be able to create separation, and so Minshew can just quickly dump it off to him and continue to pick up first downs, continue to keep the drive moving. So I think Josh Downs could be in line for a really big game on Sunday with him back 100%. And especially if Todd Bowles is going to send an exorbitant amount of blitzes Minshew's way, I think he's going to be looking for number 1 to bail him out.
Yeah, and I also think that there's going to be a lot of attention put on Michael Pittman. I really do think that they're going to initially try to shut him out and force Minshew to go elsewhere. Downs has really, dare I say it, when it's a slot matchup, man, he's shown that he can beat almost anybody, pretty much anybody already. So I think that he only had 2 catches last week. He was limited, still had one of the biggest catches of the game. But right there with you, I think that this is an opportunity for a lot of players to really bounce back. And I think that a fully healthy Josh Downs, you're looking at his normal of 5 catches or more.
Want to give a shout out to my beautiful wife Danielle for her nightly super sticker here. Thank you so much for all of your support. Always coming in with that super sticker, unless she's sleeping, of course. Because hey, I with what she has to deal with all those kindergartners, definitely would
And
take a
you,
toll out
and
of me
you,
and me. Listen,
and you.
I'm not easy to deal with either. Let's be honest here. But thank you so much. Really appreciate all of your support. Let's turn things around here, Drake. Let's focus on the Colts defense against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Obviously, Shaquille Leonard will not be out there this weekend, but let's focus on what the Colts that will be out there in uniform, and it starts up front. Starts with pressuring Baker Mayfield. I think the Colts have only played Baker Mayfield once in his career, back when he was with the Browns. I think the Colts, I don't think the Colts got the victory that day, if I remember correctly.
Sounds about right.
Stats Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the biggest thing that we have seen so far this year with Baker Mayfield is it's pretty much the same thing with every quarter with all the other quarterbacks. Is when kept clean, Baker Mayfield can certainly pick you apart, especially with those massive weapons on the outside, with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. But you start to muddy that pocket, and Baker Mayfield is very likely to push and try to throw it into situations where he shouldn't. So, in my opinion, that is going to be. I know we say it's a key for a lot of these games is putting pressure on the quarterback, but I think that this game probably more so than ever, if you put pressure on the quarterback on Baker Mayfield, you're going to have plenty of opportunities to create some turnovers.
Yeah, and the thing about Baker Mayfield is we kind of talked about it a little bit, and he's an indicative of what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are. Any given Sunday can be one of the best teams in the NFL. Now, also, any given Sunday, they can absolutely get the crap kicked out of them, And so Baker Mayfield is a high-low type of quarterback. He's boom or bust, and when he busts, I mean, he'll throw you 2-3 interceptions. Now, this year, I think he has like 14 touchdown passes to 5 picks, which might be one of
15-6, somewhere around there.
he's actually playing, given their record and how absolutely dreadful they've been at running the ball. He's really limited those turnovers. Now, I also think that he's got some great weapons. Don't underestimate the combo of Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. They can beat anybody, any given game. So I do think if you get pressure on him, that's going to be huge. But the thing is, Tampa's got kind of an underrated offensive line. They've only allowed, I think, 20 sacks on the season, or something like that. I mean, Tristan Wirfs is playing great. Luke Godecki, I think Godecki's playing great. Aaron Stinney's playing pretty decent. I mean, they've got a halfway decent offensive line. So if for any reason the Colts can't get to Mayfield, especially without Juju Brents, we could be looking at a kind of a high-scoring game, maybe, given that both defenses kind of have a weaker secondary and they're banged up to a degree. So, but I'm right there with you, man. If you get on Baker Mayfield, he ain't going to outrun you. He's kind of as mobile as Minshew, really. So I think that him and Minshew are very similar in many ways, outside of the fact that sometimes Mayfield will just – he's got a hell of an arm, and he'll just throw it to the defense. I mean, he'll just throw it right to the defense. So, I think that pressuring Baker Mayfield is probably the absolute highest priority for the Colts defense and Gus Bradley to get this win.
And I honestly don't think it's going to be just one guy, because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers do have some studs along that offensive line, starting with Tristan Wirfs, who is arguably a top 5 offensive lineman in the entire NFL. I think he might be the highest graded left tackle, at least according to Pro Football Focus. But hey, Bernard Ryman right behind him there. So hey, let's give Birdie his props here. But I think it's going to be by committee again. I mean, you might see DeForest Buckner get a sack here. You might see Kwity Paye hopefully can get a sack. Maybe Dio Dagbo gets back into that category. But I just don't see necessarily one guy taking over this game. I think if you're going to get pressure, it's got to be by committee, and it's got to be consistent. You can't just have a guy get a sack here and then over the next quarter, Baker Baker Mayfield isn't touched. You know what I mean? Because if he isn't, that'll allow him to get into a rhythm. It'll allow these veteran wide receivers going up against these young cornerbacks to be able to use their skills and be able to get open and for nice gains, because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers do like to push it down the field, especially when you have a deep threat like a Mike Evans, who's likely going to go up against Jalen Jones or Daryl Baker Jr., Juju Brents if he returns. We'll talk about him in a bit, but pressuring Baker Mayfield, making him get the ball out of his hands either early, so the Tampa Bay Buccaneers can't go deep, or earlier than he wants to, and it forces him into bad decisions. I think that's really going to be key, and maybe to take advantage of those bad decisions. That linebacking core, we know Zaire Franklin is going to be out there. We know what we're going to get from Z, but EJ Speed. It's EJ Speed's time to shine. Now the other starter alongside of Zaire Franklin in this Colts defense, he'll be taking over that will spot that was vacated by Shaquille Leonard. EJ Speed, now a full-time starter. What are you expecting from this defense now that EJ Speed is going to be out there probably close to 100% of the time for the Colts?
I am so glad you asked, because I am just going to read my little blurb from my article. Currently, EJ Speed sits at 41 tackles, 6 tackles for loss, 2 forced fumbles, and a sack. He's the team's best run defender, and he's also the team's best overall graded defender as far as linebackers are concerned per Pro Football Focus. My point is, EJ Speed is ready to start full time. I think that you will get one of the best duos of a linebacking core. I mean, I know that some have 3 guys. The Colts here are going to have 2, and Grant Stewart at times. But man, I really expect a lot from EJ Speed. Last season he played great. This season he's playing even better, and he's still a destroyer of run games. So I think that him and Zaire Franklin are going to complement each other very well, and he's also proven that he can force fumbles and take the ball away.
I think that's where you're going to see the biggest differences against the run. That's where you're going to see. And while EJ Speed can certainly hold his own in pass coverage, EJ Speed is very good run defender. You know, and I think having that ability out there, being able to use his pass rushing ability as well, I think that's where we're really going to see an uptick in this Colts defense. So he's going to be good against the run, but hey, he can probably take advantage of some of those opportunities if Baker Mayfield does get a little flustered and puts the ball up for grabs. So it's going to be interesting to see. I know there's going to be a lot of eyes on EJ Speed, particularly this weekend, obviously, because you are stepping into that position that Shaq Leonard had, all of the drama and everything that's gone on with the waiving of Leonard this week, because the Colts feel like EJ Speed is ready to take over, and Shaquille Leonard was no longer going to be a part of the future of this team. EJ Speed is. So, I mean, the Colts re-signed EJ Speed in the offseason because they believed this is something that he was capable of doing. Well, now he's getting his shot. And I really hope that EJ Speed can play the best football that he's ever played before, now that he's getting this opportunity, because this guy, 5th round pick out of Tarleton State, a really small school, coming up through the ranks, started out as a special teamer, getting more and more playing time on defense. Now he's finally has his shot, kind of taking the same route that Zaire Franklin did, you know, coming from a lower level draft pick, coming up through the ranks, started on special teams, was really good. Now getting his shot as a starter on this defense. I think Speed is ready for it, and I think we're going to see the Colts defense get better because of it.
Yeah, and hey, this is EJ Speed's coming out party, really, right here. This is where he's probably, like you said, he's probably going to get 100% of the snaps. And guess what? He gets to do that. And his specialty is stopping the run. Well, he gets the league's worst run attack, literally dead last with 76.9 rushing yards per game. So this is an opportunity for EJ Speed to truly feast on Rachaad White in the backfield, and maybe even put some pressure on Baker Mayfield with the blitz or two.
Turn the Buccaneers into a one-dimensional team.
Right.
I think the Colts have a really good chance of doing that on Sunday. But with turning them into a one-dimensional team, you're probably going to turn them into a pass-happy team if you should focus on stopping the run. And because of that, you're again testing this young secondary, and testing it means the Colts could be without Juju Brents for another week. He did not practice today, still dealing with that quad injury. Well, we'll kind of have to see how things develop. But so I'm going to ask you two questions here, Drake. First of all, do you think Juju Brents returns this week? And if he doesn't, how confident are you that this Colts secondary can hold down the fort even if Brents isn't out there?
I would say that he's trending towards starting. That's my opinion. I know he was he a limited participant or
He
he
did not
wasn't?
practice at all today.
Okay. I would still, you know what? I'm still going to go on the positive side. I would say that he's transitioning towards starting because there's been times where they haven't even had Quentin Nelson's practice, and then lo and behold, fifth straight week where he starts and he practiced not at all. Or he missed like multiple days. So not too concerned about that. If he doesn't play, I'm not as confident actually because I know the Colts have played some real dogs this season, but even a duo like Christian Kirk and Calvin Ridley, they're not meshed well yet. Not well enough to be like Godwin and Mike Evans. I understand it's not Tom Brady back there, but dude, I mean, Baker Mayfield's not playing bad at all. Okay. And he fits the way that they need him to throw the football. He's a gunslinger, and that's where they operate best. And so I think the biggest matchup, though, I don't think we're going to talk about a matchup, but the biggest one to watch will be Kenny Moore versus Chris Godwin. Because if Chris Godwin gets locked up by Kenny Moore, Mike Evans is going to have issues getting open. But man, God forbid, if he gets the best of Kenny Moore, you're going to start seeing some things open up for Baker Mayfield, and especially if you let him start uncorking some deep balls. So I think that it's huge if Juju Brents returns or not. I think it could potentially decide a win or a loss for the Colts.
See, for me, unfortunately, I don't think Brents is coming back this week. I think in order for Brents to come back, he would need that full week of practice. And
That's fair.
I know there's people, there's people that haven't practiced and still played. You mentioned Quentin Nelson, but at the same time, I think Quentin Nelson is one of those players that has earned that trust, the guy
Fair.
that's been able to been there, done that. Juju Brent's still a rookie. I think he still needs to get a full week of practice in, maybe a little bit more even because of how much time he's been out. I think this would end up being like the fourth game he's missed in a row, maybe and 5 weeks total, maybe even the fifth game he's missed in a row. But so I think he would still need at least a few practices to go out there and show, hey, I'm good to go and I'm ready to start. But I like where this secondary has been trending. I mean, giving Darrell Baker Jr. that second chance, and so far he's done a pretty good job. Again, I don't think he's gone up against the talent of Mike Evans or Chris Godwin yet over these past few weeks, but at the same time, he's held his own. Jalen Jones, I think Jalen Jones is playing great football on the outside, and I think he might be the one you're primarily talking about that might be matched up with Mike Evans over there, typically on the left side of the field. You talked about Kenny Moore. No questions what Kenny Moore is going to bring to the table. No concerns about Kenny Moore, even if he was matched up on Mike Evans or Chris Godwin. I think Kenny Moore is going to give him hell. What I want to see is better deep play from the safeties. I know Julian Blackmon has been playing well along the line of scrimmage. I'm not really so much worried about him as I am Rodney Thomas II. Rodney Thomas II, I think, as that deep safety, needs to be ready to give help to that side that Mike Evans is on, or make sure you don't get beat deep. The Colts have really struggled in giving up explosive plays this season on the defensive side of the ball. Some of that has been on Rodney Thomas, some of it hasn't, but as that deep safety, that is your main job, to make sure that nothing gets behind you. So if they're going to want to test this Colts defense deep, specifically with Mike Evans, who's been a deep threat his entire career, Rodney Thomas II has to step up and make sure that Evans doesn't burn the Colts and ends up with a huge touchdown for the Buccaneers.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I think that's going to be the big X factor I think that's the X factor for the Buccaneers is Mike Evans, because like you said, he's a big play specialist. The weird thing is he's kind of like Michael Pittman Jr. in many ways. He really can be a volume guy, a route running guy, a power through a 50-50 catch guy, a red zone guy. I mean, Mike Evans consistently just gets 1,000 yards receiving every year. He pushes 10 touchdown catches and pushes 100 freaking catches, or gets at least 75. The guy's unreal. So any given Sunday, again, he can be a top 5 wide receiver. I don't care if he's over 30 years old or at 30. He can be a top 5 wide receiver, and he's played with too many quarterbacks and made it work for me to think otherwise.
Well, I'll ask a good question. Do we get an Amir Speed sighting? He's been the physical prototype Gus loves. Wyatt, if I'm being honest, I don't think so. I think if Amir Speed plays, it's going to be on special teams. But I think I think Jalen Jones, his spot is safe. I don't think there's really going to be anything that anybody that can displace Jalen Jones from that outside cornerback spot. And with Daryl Baker Jr., he's been playing well over these last couple of games. So I don't think they're going to change that just for the sake of getting Amir Speed out there. I think maybe if Baker Jr. struggles this week, you could possibly see him and Speed kind of fight it out for that spot, possibly a week down the road. But I don't think it's going to be Speed's week. I think it's going to be Daryl Baker Jr. as that outside corner.
Yeah, and the thing is, Jalen Jones is actually one of the better graded cover corners on the Colts. And if you think about who they've got starting, and I'm going to go both sides of the ball here. We talked about this in the last episode. They have 3 7th rounders right now starting on defense. Rodney Thomas at safety, a free safety. Jalen Jones, who's playing actually really good football, especially when you give consideration to the fact that he's a 7th freaking round pick. And then Will Fries, who's been resurgent at right guard. So right now you've got guys that nobody's thinking about. Unless you cover the team or you're a fan of the team, you probably have no idea who the hell those guys are. But I'm telling you, they are integral to the Colts being able to handle guys like Chris Godwin and guys like Mike Evans. So maybe Jalen Jones sees more of Mike Evans than what we're thinking. And I mean, you talk about a test earlier in your career. That's one of the best right there.
Zaire Franklin, also a 7th round pick in the 2018 NFL draft. X Factor time, Drake. Who is your X Factor this weekend against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Who do you think has to perform well in order for the Colts to get the victory?
I am going to assume that one of these guys starts. I'm going to put 3 guys on the spot here: Quentin Nelson, Ryan Kelly, and Will Fries. All 3 of them need to stop Vita Vea. He is literally the focal point of everything. It's just like when they faced the Rams, you have to track Aaron Donald, you have to track Vita Vea. Okay, I think he's number 50, so it's not hard. So at the end of the day, it's pretty simple. If you allow him to really get into the ground game and you allow him to disrupt Jonathan Taylor, Zach Moss, and that ground attack, you're starting to give this porous secondary a chance to maybe find its footing against the Colts. So I think that that's first and foremost what you're going to have to do. I think that the X factor comes down to those 3. And if they can hold Vita Vea at bay, man, you might see some really explosive performances from the Colts' biggest playmakers.
You and Chaz are on the same wavelength there, Drake. Chaz says Nelson's got to block Vita Vea. So I am sure they'll be matched up a couple of times. But again, I think it's going to be a group effort by this Colts offensive line. I think they're certainly up to the task. And I'm going to go with the guy that's running behind those 3 up front. I'm going Jonathan Taylor. You know, I think this is time for a Jonathan Taylor takeover game. You know, he's been back with the Colts for a while now. We haven't seen him truly take over a game for the Colts yet. I think it has to happen. You know, let Gardner Minshew kind of get into the flow of the game. I know the Buccaneers have the 6th ranked defense against the run, but at the same time, the Colts are paying this guy now $14 million a year. He is the 3rd highest paid running back in the NFL. You still got to take over games. No more of this where we're starting to get the 3.5 yards per carry. I know defenses are focused in on trying to stop the Colts running game and making Gardner Minshew beat them, but they did that the same thing with Jonathan Taylor in 2021 with Carson Wentz as the quarterback. I think it's time. You know, Jonathan Taylor has to take over this game. The Colts have to dominate the time of possession, and you have to will this Buccaneers defense into submission and be real physical up front. So I think we're right there on the same page there, Drake. It's got to be a physical up front. It's got to be the offensive line really dominating and Jonathan Taylor finding those holes and being that bell cow that the Colts can lean on to get a victory. So predictions: Colts Buccaneers, 1 o'clock Eastern on Sunday at Lucas Oil Stadium. My guess is the roof will be closed for this one on Thanksgiving weekend. It's supposed to be a little chilly down in Indianapolis this weekend. But Drake, what do you think? Do the Colts drop the game coming after the bye, or are they winners of 3 straight?
First off, open the damn roof, because you're talking about they're from Tampa, man. Their winter's like 50 degrees anyway. It's fine. Midwesterners could handle that, but I will go ahead and just move on to what we were actually going to talk about. I think that it's going to come down to Juju Brents, and if he starts, and I just when I did my predictions piece, I'm surprised I didn't get enough flack about this. I took Tampa, actually, and I think that if Brents plays, I do think that the Colts have the edge. I think that they do get the win 30-27. But if likely he doesn't, I think it's 35-34. I'm going crazy here. Buccaneers. And the reason I say that is because I think that the Colts offensive line can handle Tampa's front enough to where Minshew's going to find time to throw. I think that Mayfield is going to find enough time to throw. And I think it's just going to be an absolute duke out. I think these guys are going to throw the ball a lot. I do think Taylor's going to find more success than Rachaad White. But the Colts haven't, I think the best team they faced, maybe the best duo of pass catchers they faced outside of Ridley and Kirk would maybe be at the time Mark Andrews and Zay Flowers or something like that. This is the best duo they're going to face. All right, right here, right now, it's a former Super Bowl level duo. And yes, they're going to face Jamar Chase and they're going to face Joe Mixon, but that's minus Joe Burrow. That was the real game to watch for. But this one right here, this is the toughest matchup for that secondary. And if the Colts can't get to Baker Mayfield, I just think this is, even though they're 4-6, it's a bad matchup for Gus Bradley's defense. And I'll take Tampa in that case. I know it sucks, but I'm going realistic here.
You're going with a very high scoring matchup there.
Very.
I'm on the opposite side. I think the Colts get the victory. You know, I think that this Colts team is ready to go after the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think watching the Tampa Bay Buccaneers over the past couple of weeks, their offense, they've got some big names, but I don't think it's nearly as potent as it has been in the past. So I'm gonna go Colts 24, Buccaneers 20. I think the Colts do cover, but again, I think it's going to end up being a game where it's got to be Jonathan Taylor, you know, and even if Juju Brents isn't out there, I still think that this Colts defense will give Baker Mayfield some issues. My last point, those guys in the locker room, they want to win this game for Shaquille Leonard. You know, they want to go out there, they want to honor him, say that he is that they go out there, win that for their brother. You know, so I think it's going to be a Colts victory this weekend in honor of Shaquille Leonard. You're going to see that defense really go out there and try to ball out. And here we go again. Another record tying super chat coming in from the GOAT himself, Anthony Doe, coming in with another $100 super chat here on the eve of Thanksgiving. Anthony, my brother in Christ, I can't believe this again. Two times in the same week coming with these $100 super chats. Absolutely absurd, man. Anthony says, happy Thanksgiving, boys. Enjoy it with those you love. Thankful for your both. Go Colts. And then he also says, and that goes for everyone in chat as well. Go Colts, baby. Hope you all enjoy Thanksgiving. Well, Anthony, I hope you have a rockin' Thanksgiving with whoever you spend it with, family, friends. You're a rock star, brother, an absolute rock star. Can't thank you enough for all of your support and joining us here this evening. Everybody, again, I'm gonna give him a shout out. Go follow Anthony on Twitter. I'm gonna see if I can remember this. I think it's Celtic with 2 eyes _of _300. I think I got it right for you.
That's
Anthony.
it. You got it, man.
Thank you so much, buddy, for
The
all of
new
your support.
co-CFO with Patrick Ryan.
Yeah, I know. He's quickly coming up there for Patrick's job. So Anthony, really do appreciate it,
You're a
brother.
dog. Thank you.
You're an absolute legend. You're one of the goats of the Horseshoe Huddle podcast. Really do appreciate it, man. And I hope you have a very happy Thanksgiving as well. Let's move it along to the Colts injury report, Drake. And honestly, a pretty clean injury report for the Colts today. So we talked about it a little bit earlier, but Juju Brents did not practice. Still dealing with that quad injury, as well as Drew Ogletree. Drew Ogletree did not practice, still dealing with that foot injury that he suffered before the Colts went to Germany. I think it was against the Carolina Panthers when that happened. So would definitely be a big boost for the Colts to get that back. Grant Stewart also did not practice today, the new starting Sam linebacker for the Indianapolis Colts, but it was due to illness. So I don't think it's going to be too serious. I think we'll still see Stewart and that beautiful mane of his that Patrick always loves to talk about out there on Sunday. But then here's some good news. Ryan Kelly limited today with the concussion. He had the red no contact jersey on, which means he's entering the final stages of the concussion protocol. Rodney Thomas with a little bit of a knee injury was limited as well. But again, no Juju Brents on there, or I'm sorry, no Josh Downs. Got my rookies mixed up. No Josh Downs on that injury report. Very good sign for this Colts offense. And it looks like Ryan Kelly, after sustaining that concussion against the Patriots in Germany, looks like Ryan Kelly could be on his way back as well. Two very crucial players for this Colts offense on Sunday.
Yeah, man, Ryan Kelly's return is huge because don't get me wrong, Wesley French, if you're talking about a backup center, he's serviceable at times, but he also is nowhere near Ryan Kelly, who on any given Sunday, and in fact, I think through the first, was it 5 weeks of the NFL season, was the top graded center in football. So, I mean, getting him back is crucial, especially to stopping Vita Vea.
Yeah, I 100% agree. So likely with tomorrow being Thanksgiving, the Colts will probably just go through a walkthrough, and then likely we'll have a full practice on Friday. Wyatt Law with a really good question again, saying Kelly with his fourth concussion, how many more? And that's definitely something you have to worry about. Ryan Kelly with his fourth concussion, just as a member of the Colts over the years. You hope he doesn't add too many, but hey, as long as he doesn't feel any adverse effects as of right now, I don't think Ryan Kelly is contemplating retiring or hanging it up anytime soon. So hopefully he doesn't sustain any more though, and he continues to have the fantastic and the rebound season that he has. And Ryan Kelly's on his way to another Pro Bowl season as the center for the Indianapolis Colts. So, Drake, let's wrap up here with the latest Colts news and rumors before we send everybody off to their Thanksgiving break. And unfortunately, we're talking about more drama. And I don't want to spend too much time on this, people, but since it involves the Colts, we do have to talk about it. All the drama with Jim Irsay that's happened on X and social media today starts out with his interview with Andrea Kramer that aired on Real Sports with Bryant Gumbel on HBO last night. Was really supposed to focus in on Jim Irsay's battle with addiction and how he's overcome that and everything that's been associated with it. But instead, the focus has been on his comments about when he was arrested back in 2014, pled guilty to a misdemeanor of a DUI, but he made some comments saying that he thought he was racially profiled against being being a white rich billionaire. And that has kind of that comment has kind of taken a mind of its own. Some other sports talk shows have kind of taken exception with that. Bryant Gumbel took exception with that and made some comments that weren't so nice about Jim Irsay. Stephen A. Smith in First Take on ESPN did not make some very nice comments about Jim Irsay. Jim Irsay has decided to fire back at those, and it's created a huge storm on X. So, Drake, I know you were really busy today, so I don't know if you've really been able to kind of take all this in, or if you saw what was going on. But what are your thoughts on this? And I don't even know, man. It's another instance where with Jim Irsay and drama and everything else associated with it.
I think at the end of the day, it reminds me a lot of when he fired Frank Reich and had his sausage press conference, and then hired Jeff Saturday. And it's like everyone immediately jumped to, well, he's violating the Rooney Rule. How dare you? You're not considering everybody. And no, it's an interim coach. You actually aren't violating the Rooney Rule. You could pick a freaking squirrel if you wanted to. So it's like everyone's overshooting what this is supposed to be. It's supposed to be a talk about his addiction, his struggle with addiction, and overcoming it.
I
But at
agree.
the end of the day, here's the thing. Yes, Stephen A. Smith. You've got people. What's the show with Emmanuel Acho?
First
And
things
LaShawn
first or
McCoy.
something.
Yeah, LaShawn McCoy. Look, man, there are people in high places that are bottom dwellers as far as what they put out there for everyone to see. Okay, so at the end of the day, Colts fans, I think that Jim Irsay is at fault because he needs to learn at sometimes that the best thing to say is absolutely nothing sometimes. Okay, sometimes you just shut your mouth, and he knows that. Okay, but at the same time, it's fanning the flames from the national media. So both people need to chill out. But I think that Irsay's in control of it more. So I think that he just needs to relax and maybe just take a step back. But at the end of the day, don't let it distract you, Colts fans, from a massive, crucial game on Sunday. The Colts need to win this game. And I know that there's been Shaq Leonard's news, and I know that there's been Jim Irsay doing Jim Irsay things again. But at the end of the day, it's all about Colts football. And trust me when I say that Shane Steichen and this football team, all that they give a damn about is Tampa Bay. So
Yeah.
let's focus on the game and let Jim Irsay, who is a billionaire owner for the Colts, just do Jim Irsay things because you can't stop him. He owns the team.
Yeah, I don't think this is a distraction for the team. I think the team is completely dialed in and they could
Oh
care
yeah,
less. So, but yeah, I mean, I was not very impressed by the way that Bryant Gumbel talked about Jim Irsay last night about all this and bringing his holier than thou attitude to all this. I don't have a very high opinion on Bryant Gumbel at all. And I
fair.
mean, should Jim Irsay have said that comment? Probably not. Probably not. And he said he doesn't care what people think about him. But when you continue to attack the man personally, and when talking about, for it seems like everybody else when they're talked about coming over addiction, they're praised as a hero. But it seems like Jim Irsay has been made the butt of a joke for a very long time. And if people are entitled to their own opinion, they can certainly talk about Jim Irsay in that way and talk down about him, but Jim Irsay is also entitled to his opinion. Jim Irsay is also entitled to fire back if you're going to say slanderous things about him. I don't care who you are. It could be Drake and I. It could be Stephen A. Smith. It does not matter. When you put those comments out there publicly about Jim Irsay, you have put yourself into that battle, and he can certainly return the fire. So, in my opinion, I think it's all stupid, all hearsay, and
There
really
you
doesn't
go.
have an impact on the game of football. Should Jim Irsay stay off of X for a little bit? Probably. Should the other people probably not take everything so out of context and overreact? Absolutely as well. Stats Matt says it here. Irsay was called a loser, clown owner, unworthy owner, selfish, never worked for anything in his life, etc. But
All
Stephen A.
lies.
Smith said if he was an NBA owner, they'd try canning his ass for it. And yeah, I don't think it's right. And as stats, as Wyatt Law says, no other NFL owner started out by picking up jocks and socks like Irsay did. Very, very well said
Not a lot of people want to
by both
do
of
the
you
digging,
guys.
though. Not a lot of
Exactly.
people want to do the digging. So just remember, Colts fans, just remember you got a great owner, and it's all about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I'd still put up the size of any other owner's heart up against Jim Irsay's any day of the week. So let's move along to what's to the players of this Colts team and going through the news. Shaquille Leonard did clear waivers today, so that means no other team picked up his contract. He is now a free agent and free to sign with any team of his choosing. The Colts are still on the hook for the $6 million that they owe him for the rest of the season, but now he can go as he please. We've heard Philadelphia as a possible destination, Dallas. There's some other areas, but I think Shaquille Leonard will find a team here before the end of 2023.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And look, at the end of the day, we said this in the last episode. I personally just want him to find a team that is going to be able to maximize his strengths. They're going to be able to fit their scheme to him or vice versa. And he'll be able to get back to where he was because, look, man, you want to see 53 succeed. He's still on the side of Lucas Oil Stadium. So
he is. They did put up the thank you for the memories on Shaquille Leonard's picture on the side of Lucas Oil Stadium, and yeah, I still wish him the best, and hopefully he goes out there and kills it in his next opportunity. In order to fill Shaquille Leonard's spot on the active roster, the Colts elevated former safety, now listed as a linebacker, Rodney Harrison Jr., to the active roster from the practice squad. Started a lot of games with the Cleveland Browns. Now I think I picture him being in that dime linebacker role for the Colts. Will certainly serve as a backup and a guy that will play on special teams. And then to fill Harrison's spot, the Colts signed safety Brandon Wilson to the practice squad today. So we talked about Harrison a little bit, Drake, when he was best signed to the Colts in the spring, and then ended up back on the practice squad. In my opinion, I don't really see Harrison making that big of an impact. I think, again, he's just going to be a depth piece and special teamer, but just to kind of fill that spot that Shaq Leonard leaves behind with that linebacking group.
well, and the really good news about a guy like Harrison Jr. is that he's got starting experience, and I think that maybe he's trying to find his best footing, and maybe he feels like that's at linebacker. And
Mm-hmm.
Shaq Leonard was a lighter linebacker. Well, Harrison Jr. is a heavier safety, so I think
Mm-hmm.
that he fits exactly what the Colts are trying to do.
Right. And then let's end the episode on a high note and talking about the news here. The Colts nominated, this guy has been nominated now for the third season in a row. DeForest Buckner is the Colts nominee for the 2023 Art Rooney Sportsmanship Award. So this person is recognized for exemplifying outstanding sportsmanship on the field, including fair play, respect for the game and opponents, and integrity on competition. And honestly, when you think of the Colts and you think of the best person to for this award, I mean, DeForest Buckner comes to your mind 10 out of 10 times, you know. So it's no shock that the Colts have nominated him for the third straight season. As Chris Ballard has once said, if I could have 53 DeForest Buckners on my roster, I'd take it in a heartbeat. And you know what? I'd probably be right there with him.
Yeah, and he's very deserving of this. He plays on the field like he's an absolute madman, but also brings everybody together as well as a massive leader for both the locker room and the community. So, not surprised, and also congratulations to DeForest Buckner going for the trifecta.
Yeah, so hopefully now with his third time being nominated, DeForest Buckner can win that award. I really don't think anybody else in the NFL deserves it more than number 99. So that's our show for today, guys. Really appreciate everybody tuning in for a third straight day. Hopefully you aren't sick of us yet, but we do
Marathon.
so much enjoy talking Colts football with you on a daily basis. Shout out to our two super chats of the evening, my beautiful wife Danielle for her nightly super sticker, and of course, one of the newest goats of the Horseshoe Huddle podcast, Anthony Doe at Celtic with two eyes _ 300 on X.
Follow.
Go give that man a follow. And really shout out to everybody else that has joined us here over these last 3 nights. Even if you haven't given us a super chat, we really do appreciate all of your support. And you guys make it so much fun to come here and talk Colts football with you every chance we get. And if you haven't done so, please go follow us on all of our socials, like Horseshoe Huddle on Facebook, follow at Colts on FN on X, and subscribe to the Horseshoe Huddle YouTube channel. Hit that bell so you know whenever Drake and I go live, especially for these breaking news episodes, so you never miss a single episode. And if you can't catch us live or you can't watch us on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you listen to podcasts, we're on there as well. So make sure you subscribe, give us a 5-star review because it helps us reach other Colts fans just like you. So Drake, as we head into our Thanksgiving weekend here, we've both still got things out there on Horseshoe Huddle for the people to go read. Tell the people what they can go check out.
So the last two are a duo of Colts linebackers are ready to step into Shaquille Leonard's void. I bet you can't guess who those guys are. And then predicting the results of the final 7 games of the Colts 2023 season. So go check that out. And if you have some opinions, let me know on Twitter or on Facebook. I am eager to hear.
Yeah, both of those went live on the site today. For me, I had a piece go live on horseshoehuddle.com as well, because day later, We finally got to speak with Shaquille Leonard's former teammates, and a lot of the leaders of the locker room definitely had some comments to say about Shaq and his departure, and how they've got to focus on Tampa Bay. There's really not time to kind of dwell on what things are happening. So some really good thoughts from DeForest Buckner, Zaire Franklin, Jonathan Taylor, all gave their thoughts. So make sure you check out that piece and all the other fantastic work by our writers on horseshoehuddle.com. Go follow Drake at DWalsterDrake. You can follow me at Andrew Moore NFL. And we want to wish you guys a very happy Thanksgiving. Go spend it with your loved ones, family, friends, whoever. We really appreciate all your support. And Drake and I are extremely thankful to have every single one of you watching and joining us every Monday and Thursday night to talk Colts football. So we'll be back, not Sunday night, we'll be back Monday night in our regularly scheduled evening to break down the Colts game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Who knows? Maybe it'll be a third straight victory Monday that we're talking to you guys. So everyone, enjoy your Thanksgiving, and we'll be seeing you Monday night.